Thank you. I felt like that was a couple of therapy sessions right there. Thank you. It was gorgeous. I just want to say something as an observer type of the changes in the church, because I think it's just astounding. You know, a church is never a minister. It doesn't work that way. A church is really made up of the people who come and their gifts and their energy and their ideas and enthusiasm, and this transition has proven that people are stepping up with their voices and their visions, and it's very, very exciting to see it. And so when I walk in, I'm always astounded. I'm like, whoa, you know, I didn't know that was coming. And it's delightful. And I just want to say congratulations to each of you for whatever part you play and whatever role you have taken on in this transformation. I think that when Reverend Darlene arrives, she will be delighted and shocked, and it will be a great welcoming for her. So applaud yourselves for all that you all have done. My goodness. Some months ago, one of my chaplain brothers, who is probably the least like me, and we are really working on our brother and sisterhood. We are, and it's really rich. Some time ago, I think we sang, what's that song? Softly and Tenderly in church, and I had just learned it from John, Chaplain John, and his tradition and mine are very different, and so we continuously are learning from each other if we just, stop being afraid and just relax a little bit. And he handed me this book as a gift, and it was printed by the Templeton Foundation Press. And I don't know if some of you know who John Templeton is, but he, Vanguard? That's where he made his money, huh? He is one of the greatest contributors to the Unity movement, to the Association of Unity Churches and the school. He's really been there to contribute to pilot projects, and just a genius. So isn't it funny that John, the conservative pastor, hands me this book? I didn't tell him. But the book is entitled When Sickness Heals, The Place of Religious Belief in Healthcare. And he was kind of not uncertain about this book because it speaks to Kali and Buddha and all the things that we're pretty comfortable with in a Unity church. And so it was my pleasure to receive it. But the question about when illness heals, when sickness heals, is one that I don't know if you carry it around with you, but I do. I do. The Unity movement started in the late 1800s. So I'll give you a little history for those of you who don't know, and probably everyone does. Myrtle Fillmore, who was treated as dear, frail Myrtle, grew up with a diagnosis of tuberculosis. She wasn't expected to live very long. And she thought she was going to die fairly soon, and she got interested in spirituality. And she started going to lectures and met this young man, Charles Fillmore. Then her name wasn't Fillmore. And they met and started going to lectures together. And she heard a speaker one day come in, E.B. Weeks, came into a lecture, and he used this affirmative prayer. He said, I am a child of God, you know what it is, and I do not inherit illness. And so Myrtle took that affirmation, that affirmative prayer, sat down in her meditation room at 9th and Tracy, which is still a Unity church. She sat down in that chair in her meditation room, which still exists, and across from her in another chair she put a picture of Jesus Christ, as someone interpreted it. And she began affirming every day for hours at a time, and she was able to do that she was a child of God, and she didn't inherit illness, she inherited wellness. She began sending messages of wholeness to every cell of her being. And Myrtle ended up living a long time. ended up living a long time, much longer than was expected. I think part of the deal is, they built this house at Unity, what is now Unity Village, and they're beautiful. The Arches was Myrtle's home, and some of you know that the one room that's missing in the Arches is the kitchen because Myrtle did not want to cook. So her mother-in-law, Charles' mother, lived in another house, and she did the cooking for the whole family. So Myrtle prayed instead. I like that. So every day she spent the hours in the silence and waiting to be bathed in the energy and the presence of God, and feeling that energy and presence of God, and feeling that peace that passes understanding. Charles Fillmore, who became her husband, was kind of an enterprising guy. He was interested in real estate and business, and he started a business magazine using New Thought principles. He was very entrepreneurial sort of guy. Well, when he saw this happen for Myrtle, he thought, well, something I need to investigate. And Papa Charlie, as they called him, had a limp ever since childhood. He had injured himself in a skating accident. So he thought, well, he was going to try this prayer thing. And he did the same. He spent hours in the silence, praying and thinking about his body, his organs being bathed in healing light. And he got better. He didn't have to wear that leg brace anymore. And when you see old movies of Papa Charlie, he's not using a cane or a leg brace. He's just got a little slight limp going there. So this idea of affirming prayer really worked for them. Our Dear Unity movement began with healing and has ever since focused on healing. There are 3 legs to the Unity movement. There were from the very beginning. There's healing and prayer, and that 24-hour Unity. If you've ever called Silent Unity, that's the prayer and healing hotline for people all over the world, actually. And there's also education, there's also publishing in the Unity movement. If you have never called the Silent Unity prayer line, I would recommend it to you, just to know what that experience is like. 24 hours a day, you can call any day of the year, and if you don't have the money to make the call, you can make a collect call, and someone will be there to pray with you. They will not pity you, they will not have sympathy for you, but they will pray affirmatively with you, that the answer is coming, that the way is clear. They're just beautiful people with a headset, and they just pray and pray and pray, and they're kind of radiant beings, They take breaks by going into the prayer room and praying over all the prayer requests that come into Unity Village 24 hours a day. And they will pray for wholeness and completeness. Today, in our community, and maybe in your personal life, there are loved ones who are praying for healing, people that we maybe prayed for during the meditation. We pray for healing, healing would be established in them, that they are free and liberated from pain or discomfort or worry. And we know all of those stories when people return to their earlier state of health, like I just told you Myrtle's story, or I just told you Charles' story. We rejoice with them. Sometimes people say, it's a miracle. And at other times, we just call it a return to wholeness. But today I want to talk to you for a few minutes about what happens when we pray. And what we witness is not a return to a former state. What we witness is a physical condition that continues in a certain direction, not the one that we hoped for, but illness, as we understand illness. How do we understand that? Does it mean that God isn't listening to our prayers? Does it mean that someone has been forgotten? And come to think of it, why did that illness occur in the first place? You've asked yourself that question. Sometimes you meet someone who's, they've had really poor habits during their lifetime and they've been tortured. Tortured emotionally by a difficult childhood or a life in prison or what have you. And you think, okay, I can understand that. But then you meet someone who's radiant. Then you meet someone who's beautiful and someone who's giving and generous, someone who prays and eats right and exercises, and it doesn't make sense, does it? It just doesn't make sense. And so you pray for them, and sometimes they continue on that road that they began. Was it because our family members or our friends weren't vigilant in their prayer life? No, of course not.